What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel. I'm Meko, once again joined by my guy Morgan. Morgan, we are here to recap some of the best moments to come out of this Lions Chargers game, and there are plenty of them that we could basically run through. The offense had an amazing day. You and I said that this was going to be a close game. I don't necessarily think we thought it would be this type of game and this type of close, but it was an exciting one nonetheless.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a 41-38 shootout, but to our point, the video we made last week, we did say the Chargers were talented, and if they got rolling, they could really be dangerous. But it was kind of the flip of what we thought, right, Miko? Like we were kind of putting more emphasis on their defense and their front, um, who really didn't have any effect on Jared Goff. I think he got hit twice.
Yeah.
But yeah, their offense went crazy though. Man, Justin Herbert is that guy.
Yeah, I think a game that like where neither defense gets a sack is again a little disappointing if you're a big fan of defense in this type of scenario. But when it comes down to just explosive plays, the type of like just high high intensity on the offensive end, we got plenty of that from beginning to end in this game. And so we're gonna dive into some of those plays in this video. And I feel like a good place that we got to start is with the ground game, because I feel like as explosive as Jared Goff was, and trust me, I don't want to have to slight him or Amon Ra because they had amazing performances this week. I still feel like this rushing attack, this combo of Gibbs and Monty, is probably like the biggest surprise going into this year when it comes to this offense.
Yeah, I think this would probably be beyond anyone's like reasonable expectations before the season. Like I was very hopeful. Like we both really liked Jahmyr Gibbs. We both, I think we're both in agreement that while we love Jamal Williams,
Mm-hmm.
great, good football player, loved anime, love that man. Shout out
Yeah.
Jamal Williams. But from a running back perspective and a carrying the rock perspective, David Montgomery, we both agreed was an upgrade. So. Um, Yeah, I'm excited to see this thing get rolling here. And like we talked about before we got on, Miko, this was cool that Ben Johnson stuck with Jahmyr here as we got down into the low red because, for a second you're like, is Monty going to come in?
Yeah.
But then they've done a good job, it looks like, of they're going to go with the approach that, there's a Gibbs drive and then there's a Montgomery drive and then a Gibbs drive and so on. So, yeah,
And
let's
I
get
think
into it.
that's yeah, and I think that's very fair as we kind of jump into this play really quick. Like it's a fair, allocation to snaps where Jahmyr I think has proven himself over the few weeks where Monty was out that like, hey, he can handle, he can handle the tough running too. So to get into a situation where you're in the red zone, you're, at the 2 yard line, and you just need to kind of like power this football in there, trusting your offensive line and trusting the talented running back that you drafted. I think those two things led to the Lions being able to get this much needed touchdown, which was actually Jahmyr's second touchdown on the day.
Yeah, and this is just a Panay Sewell is really coming. Like he was great last year, but he's honestly raised his play to another stratosphere, and he's going to end up being an All Pro. If not, I'm going to be pretty angry. So he better be an All Pro. Putting that out there now.
Oh no,
But
me, I'm right there with you. I'm absolutely on the Panay is an All Pro, like easily a Pro Bowler, absolutely an All Pro this year.
he has to be an All Pro. 23-year-old All Pro would be an impressive accolade. But yeah, Panay gets a great block, so strong at the point of attack here. Kenneth Murray, the Chargers linebacker, number 9, right there at the mic. Um, it's a little bit of a friendly fire for him at this point. He kind of runs into the back of a teammate here and takes a couple of guys down in the process. But yeah, this is just one of those, like you said, Miko, Ben Johnson, sticking with the bread and butter. Let me run off my soon to be all pro tackle and just keep it simple.
I want to like get back to what you were talking about with Kenneth Murray with the friendly fire, because his friendly fire actually throws Brock Wright off because he was expecting to fill this gap here. His man's already going down. He's just like, oh, I guess I'll just go here.
Yeah, that's a good point that I haven't really. Yeah, he just kind of slides, right? He's like, well, I better find something to do because it's like a 3-car pileup for the Chargers right there because Panay kind of moves his assignment past that little pileup too. So yeah, there's just a bunch of bodies and makes it easy. I mean, what does Jahmyr get touched until he's in the end zone? I
Yeah, like
guess on
not
the
really.
foot.
Like honestly, like without Brock Wright being able to slide over and pick up that block, like yeah, he probably meets Derwin James like right there in the hole. Uh, but again, Kenneth Murray's friendly fire kind of derails this entire play for the Chargers defense and really sets up the Lions offense well. Uh, they really needed every last one of these scoring opportunities. I think the one of their first drives where they got into the red zone, penalties kind of set them back. They weren't able to get a touchdown. They had to settle for a field goal. And obviously we didn't know it then, but seeing how this game played out, like every last one of those opportunities in the red zone really mattered. And so the Lions being able to convert on this one just proves like, again, one, that they can do it because obviously this was a focus of theirs, coming out of the bye week, but also just that like, hey, like we need to capitalize on these moments where we have an opportunity to get 7 points. Like we have to get them.
Yeah, and after that early hiccup, they cleaned it up, right? They were much more efficient when they got into the red zone. They were breaking off chunk plays. That first drive should have ended in a touchdown. I know we talked about it, Miko, but the JMO touchdown should have counted. I'm still confused about the Taylor Decker penalty. You're allowed to cut people so long as they're not already engaged with another offensive lineman or a blocker.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what that was about. It ruined a really cool dive and celebration by JMO that I'm still pretty pissed off about, to be honest with you. So
I wonder if like
yeah,
Taylor, like after that play, went up to JMO was like, "I owe you one," because I feel like that's one where
man,
like Ben Johnson, everybody's gonna be like, "JMO, we owe you a touchdown," because like that should have
yeah,
counted.
no, and that was nice design too, and he's so fast. He just beats him to the corner and he like dives and like spins in the air and extends it. It was just nice and saucy. I really liked it. But yeah, well, at least they were really efficient in the red zone after that little hiccup there, settling for 3 points, and they had to be, to your point, Miko, because this was a track meet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one other situation where, again, in this game where they weren't quite able to capitalize, I think this was the drive, I believe, right after the Kirby turnover, where they were in Chargers territory. They get to a 4th and 5 situation, and again, something that like most teams wouldn't do, but I feel like this is becoming more and more predictable, at least from my standpoint, that like Dan Campbell, if he feels like, his offense has the matchup, if they have the right look on the field, they're not afraid to run the ball on 4th down, even if it's 4th and 5, because they just trust this offensive line so well. And the previous play we highlighted Penei Sewell. This time we get to highlight the other side of the offensive line. And I think Jonah Jackson really made his presence felt coming back into the lineup off that injury, to really help David Montgomery be able to pick up these 5 yards.
Yeah, man, this the offensive line dominated all day. Like they were consistently resetting the line of scrimmage. A really good. They pull Jonah here, and he gets a nice block, and it, they were just consistently blowing the Chargers off the ball, just resetting the line of scrimmage, making things easy. And this is bully ball. To run the ball here on this down and distance is pretty wild in today's NFL, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is really just saying, like in football terms, like, hey, we believe we're better than you. We're more physical than you. We want it more than you do. And again, it's a great look. And Jonah does an amazing job, like you said, pulling, contacting number 56. Panay's out here in no man's land because he's like, oh, I have no one to block over here. And then David Montgomery does an amazing job showing amazing vision to be able to read this situation, quickly get north and south, and basically allow his offensive line to help, push him over over that 5 yard mark.
Yeah, this is a good play call. I'm sure the Chargers weren't really banking on getting hit with this on 4th and 5, just because they don't play in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
you
good
know,
because they
you
don't
know,
play in the Big 12.
you know what I mean. It's just this is a crazy play call, and it's not the first time we've seen them go to a run on a down and distance where it's like, yeah, that's pretty crazy, maybe on Madden or maybe, in high school. But yeah, this is just really good execution too. And Ben Johnson trusting his guys. And it was really good to have Jonah back in the fold, man. We kind of see the difference it makes having him at left guard and having, Frank back at center and then Graham at right guard playing well. It's just a nice little, like the Infinity Gauntlet right now, honestly. Like,
Yeah, honestly, like having all the Infinity Stones, like they're like, listen, each Infinity Stone is awesome by itself, absolutely. But you get them all together, and at the snap of a finger, you can get explosive plays and impressive plays from your offense like this. And I think like what you're saying about Jonah being back, like I've had this feeling for a while that left side of the offensive line is sometimes a little forgotten, right? Like Taylor and Jonah just do their job so well that I think it gets to the point where, whether it's the national media or even the fans, we sometimes just take them for granted because like we just know they're going to be relied upon. We know they're going to have good games. Especially in the sense of like Taylor. Like Taylor's been here so long, he's such an established veteran. It's rare that he has a bad game. And I think Jonah's kind of crept up to that same level where it's like Jonah really has bad games. He's rarely ever hurt. And so, it kind of sometimes you need to like have him out of the lineup and have situations like this where he comes back and you're just like, oh yeah, he's really good in space. Like he's probably one of their best pullers, probably next to Panay. Like Panay's probably like, yes, number one, and then it's like Jonah right there.
yeah, I definitely agree with you in terms of pulling Miko. That's a great point because, yeah, it's Jonah's essential to what a lot of the like the gap scheme running the Lions deploy. Ben
Yeah.
Johnson likes to get downhill and pull guys, and yeah, like you said, if you can pull, find different ways to get Jonah, get Panay out in space in front of ball carriers like Jameer Gibbs, like JMO. Hopefully, we do that again soon.
Yeah.
Like St. Brown, you make magic happen, right? Because that they did this over and over again, man. They just getting people into favorable positions and resetting the line of scrimmage and just giving Gibbs and Montgomery just all kinds of options in terms of cutback lanes.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the play here in this breakdown, but I believe even with Jameer Gibbs' first touchdown, right? Like Jonah pulls on that one, and they basically like they end up celebrating together in the end zone because Jonah basically like escorts him all the way there. And so it's one of those things where this offensive line, and I think it's becoming more and more common, to say this, but like this is probably one of the top two offensive lines and probably not number two if we're not being beholden to like what team got to the Super Bowl last year. Like this Lions offensive line when healthy is probably the best offensive line of the NFL right now.
I'm right there with you, Miko. Like last year, I would have still deferred to the Eagles, and you can make a case for the Niners have a good offensive line. The Patriots prior to this year have always had really good offensive lines. So yeah, I would say the Lions are the best right now, man. Sewell's playing at, we already talked about it, an all pro level. Frank's already been an all pro. When he's healthy, he's amazing. And he's been healthy for the most part this year.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
Uh,
think he's only missed one game so far
yeah,
this year.
that's
Yeah,
pretty good, man, because I feel like he's going to deal with whatever that toe is for the rest of his football playing days, sadly. It's just one of those injuries.
which is a crazy thing to think about, right? Like we know he has a toe injury, and yet still going out there, still being that guy.
Yeah. And if y'all don't know, having a toe injury in the offense, like in the trenches, is not fun, man, because you're getting stepped on in there. Like it's
I was
not
gonna
if you
say like
play.
yeah, like no, there's no like there's a whole lot of toe tapping going on in those trenches,
Toe
and
stomping.
so yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
moving on to like to our third play. So this is a play. So if you guys don't know, if this is your first time ever watching one of these like top play videos that Morgan and I do, Morgan also does an article over on Pride Detroit where he typically finds like a theme or a couple of plays that he wants to highlight. And this was one of the ones that you chose to highlight in your article. This was 2nd and 7 with the Lions on the line on the Chargers 49-yard line. So I really want to give you a chance to kind of break down, what is it about this play that really stood out to you?
Just them trusting Sam Laporta, right? Like in terms of his pass catching. I mean, he made the game sealing first down, if you will, at the very end of the game from Goff to bleed the clock all the way down. But they send they play it's a play fake to Gibbs, but at the same time they're running a motion, which they did a ton against the Chargers. They were sending Laporta and Brock Wright in motion a lot to get them out in front of ball carriers, almost like a lead blocking like escort motion,
Mm-hmm.
just to get them a little bit of a head of steam. So they showed this look, but in this instance, they were sending Laporta over there to block Joey Bosa, which it
That
makes me
is not a
nervous.
yeah. I was
Yeah.
gonna say that is not an easy task.
No, man, that makes me nervous. But it's if when you look at their alignment, it's how it's blocked because Brock Wright is chips with Panay Sewell just for an instant, and then he
Hmm.
releases and tries to make himself available to Goff just in case Goff needs to check it down. But Laporta does a good job, man. He does it. Didn't have to block him for long once he got over there to Bosa, but it allows Goff to execute the play fake, hit the back of his drop, and another good ball. His rapport with St. Brown is just so good right now. That's something that jumps off the tape to me. It's just how much him and St. Brown are in sync.
Yeah, and I think Saints getting even better again with some of these deeper routes, being able to snap these routes off a little bit cleaner. I think he still has room to get better because I still think he kind of round this off a bit. But as he continues to grow as a receiver, like this is just going to become even more deadly when he's going to be able to really like push corners up, up the field and then just snap it off really quickly. Like this is going to be a problem.
Yep, and they have good timing on it too. Like some of these deep outs, these outs that Goff throws to St. Brown, he throws them before St. Brown's even out of his break. It's like that video they posted in the offseason, right, where Goff threw it to him blind, like with his eyes closed,
Yeah.
and you can see they put in the work. But yeah, it's just I was impressed that they are using Laporta like that, just because that's a tough assignment, man. Going across the formation, having to block Joey Bosa. I'm sure Panay was like, "Are we sure we want to do this? You guys sure you don't want me
I'm
to
sure
just
I'm
block him?"
sure Sam was like I'm sure Sam was like, what did I do wrong? That like
Yeah.
this is my assignment for this week. But like it does. It also just goes to show like his growth as a blocker. I feel like earlier in the year, like Sam had like a couple good blocks here and there, but like he also had some bad run-ins with a couple defensive ends where he got tossed aside. And so for him to, again, be able to understand his assignment, not to shy away from the moment. I think when we did our breakdown of Gerald Everett, that was one of my criticisms of him, where it was just like Gerald Everett wants no part of blocking at times.
Mm-mm.
And so for Sam to at least show the willingness, like, listen, I'm gonna at least give it my all. If I end up on my back, I end up on my back. But him being able to get a nice block on Joey Bosa, like he's the only one out there. Like you said, Panay and Brock Wright kind of both crash inside. So if Sam doesn't make that block, Joey Bosa has a straight beeline to Jared Goff in that situation.
Yeah, and like you said, all good points, Miko. Sam cares, right? Like he definitely cares. He wants to be a good blocker. I think it was John Kaminsky's mic'd up last 2 weeks ago. They were like talking about Laporta on the sideline. He was like, "Sam's strong."
Yeah.
They said something like that about Laporta. So I do think Laporta's stronger than we even think he is, and he's a powerfully built kid. But yeah, it was cool to see them trust him do this with Bosa because it was, to your point, it was the Raiders film when Max Crosby was using him
Yeah.
in nasty ways, and so
And Joey
yeah,
Bosa's built like a tank. Like it's not like he's a
yeah,
small guy. Like
nah, that's a big
Joey's
boy.
impressive.
He's not Nick, but he's a good player.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
really good
And
player.
so speaking of other good players, we're gonna get to our last clip of this breakdown. But we got to talk about. Listen, there weren't a lot of great defensive moments in this game. Like we talked about, it was an offensive shootout. I talked about it yesterday in my recap of the game. Lions didn't have a stop in the second half, which is mind blowing. The fact that they were still able to win that game, with that being a fact, but they did get the sole turnover in this game, and I think that's of one of the most, if not the most important thing that happened in this game is that, like, listen, the Lions were able to steal away a possession, and even though they weren't able to convert it into points like we talked about earlier, they at least kept the Chargers from getting points in this situation.
Yeah, and we'll take what we can get, right? Like to your point, they didn't have a stop the entire. What did you say? The entire second half?
Yeah, the entire second half.
Oh man, yeah, that I didn't. I know a lot of people like shootout games. I just want to put it out there. I don't, man. I'd rather see a rock fight. I'd rather it be 13-10. That's less stressful to me. All this
Bro,
scoring, I'm
that,
like, oh my god.
and it's one of those things, like I said that when I was prepping for that video, and I finally got to look at that, and I was like, it felt that way, but at the same time, it's just like to see it on paper, it's like that's it's not good. But
No.
this what Kirby Joseph did is very good, right? Being able to read a situation, being able to be in the right place at the right time, um, and gets a great assist from Alex Anzalone on this play, and to be able to get, like I said, the only turnover from the game.
Yeah, and good job by Anzalone seeing and recognizing that he's good to go ahead and get after Herbert, right? Like there's nothing, if that's his responsibility, he doesn't have anything else, go ahead and commit and getting after Herbert because he's going to go into that bootleg. But yeah, this is just a top like elite play by Kirby to be able to get to this ball and catch it in bounds because not too many athletes can do this, right? Like Kirby's a really, really elite athlete.
No, like top tier athlete. And so like you and I were kind of talking about it before we started recording, but like sometimes some of my gripe is that I wish Kirby would trust his athleticism more. That like, listen, if you just allow yourself to be in the right position at the right time, you're athletic enough to make plays if they're in your zone. Like you don't have to cheat in certain situations. And he doesn't in this one. He just goes to where he's supposed to be. He's clearly supposed to be, keeping an eye on that intermediate space. And he's the benefactor of an overthrow in this situation.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Herbert was trying to just throw this out of bounds, and he probably thought he got it there. But yeah, and at first glance, I didn't know if Kirby caught this, but then once I saw the replay and he got that shin down too, I was like, oh nope, we're good.
Oh yeah,
That's a
like
pick.
yeah, great awareness by Kirby in this situation to again have your legs go dead, right? And
Yep.
he got the shin, and I think he got the toe. Like I think he got both feet as well
Oh, did
before he
he?
actually got out of bounds. So like
Oh, dang.
it's a really good play by him in this situation, and this is what we grew accustomed to Kirby doing last year is him being able to make plays on the ball, whether it's overthrows, whether it's him just reading coverage well. But I do think in order for this defense to thrive, like he has to do more of this. He just has to take care of his responsibility, be where he needs to be, and then allow plays to come to him. Because, like I said, he's athletic enough to cover enough ground if a play is in his area, is in his vicinity.
Yeah, and I love Kirby. I'm a huge Kirby Joseph fan, as the football player, the person. But yeah, him and the rest of the secondary really just need to be more sound, right? And their responsibilities. Trust the technique. Trust that the coaches are going to be putting you where you need to be because I mean, there were a couple instances like we talked about at Meko where and I know we're going to get into it, some of it tomorrow in tomorrow's video, but Herbert just made like a couple crazy throws, right? Like
Yeah.
Kirby on the one touchdown, we'll break it down tomorrow. Kirby probably has an interception if that's any other quarterback throwing it minus like 5.
I was gonna say any quarterback outside the top five,
Yeah,
Kirby's probably
bingo.
picking that off.
Yep. Because they just, it's a different. Remember all those years we watched Stafford, fit throws into seemingly non-existent
Impossible windows.
windows.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing. We're just seeing you see it sometimes on the other end, and you're like, dang, you know.
Yeah. And like you said, we are gonna get into a video Morgan and I are gonna do because like, there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of questions about the defense and like where are the deficiencies. So Morgan and I want to dive into that and we want to be able to look at this game specifically. We might grab some clips from some other games, but specifically looking at this game and just try to figure out like where is the defense struggling because um, I don't believe it's one area specifically, Morgan. I do think like it's a collective thing, and I think Dan talked about it in his press conference yesterday, where if you look at the defensive line, you have guys that aren't winning their one-on-one assignments. They're not using great technique, and so therefore they're not being able to get to the quarterback. And then in the secondary, you're still having communication issues where not everyone is on the same page, and some guys are doing one thing and some guys are doing another thing. And I I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, well, that shouldn't be happening in year 3 under this coaching staff. But I think this is what happens. This is the downside of winning the way you've been winning. When you're 7-2, I think you can start to feel yourself a little bit, and you start to like feel like, oh, well, I can just make a play at any given time. And it's like you have to remember what got you to 7-2. It's technique. It's being on your job, and it's being able to communicate well with your teammates. It's not just your single individual ability.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, Mika. They need to get back to just trusting each other to make the play when it's there, not getting outside of your responsibilities. Because I think, like you said, Dan Campbell and the coaches have said as much, like, right, in coded language, like
Yeah.
throughout the last, everyone just needs to do their job. We've seen, and again, to reference some of the mic'd up segments the Lions drop. Like, I've seen AG saying that to people on the sideline, just do your job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really do think it's tough to lay it all at the feet of the coaches, right? But there were a couple instances, and we're going to get into them tomorrow, where the Lions had the proper look. It's just Keenan Allen was better than Jerry Jacobs on that rep, because
Yep.
Keenan Allen's a Pro Bowl player. So it's just, it's those things. And it's almost like basketball. Sometimes guys just hit shots, right? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes Steph, Luka Doncic, they hit a step back in your face, and you're like, dang, I was in their face though. And you're like,
Yeah, like all you can do is kind of shoulder shrug. Like I can't do anything. Anything
yeah.
else is going to be illegal at that point. So
And to
definitely looking
their,
forward to doing that video tomorrow.
yeah.
Like I said, Morgan and I are going to break down, just again going through this game. We're going to pull a couple clips. Like I said, I may go back into some other games and find some other clips where it's just like, hey, the defense wasn't as great, but I think at the same time, you know, we still, I think one of the reasons we do these types of videos in itself is like realizing that, like, listen, this still is a complete team. This team does complement each other very well. And maybe it's not for a full 4 quarters, but moments like that where Kirby gets a pick, when you're able to get a couple punts, when you're able to steal a possession away, those are the things that help be the difference, between a win and a loss. And that was definitely the case in this game where the Lions were able to win by a field goal.
Yeah, and like you said, Miko, it's complementary, right? Like, sometimes there's going to be days where the Lions offense isn't humming along, like, the Tampa Bay game. Like, right, they weren't
Yeah.
clicking on all cylinders. The Tampa Bay actually played pretty good defense against the Lions, minus a couple different plays, the JMO shot play. And the defense is right there, and they didn't even allow Tampa Bay to score a touchdown. So it's just going to be a give and take thing. I don't expect the defense to give up touchdowns on 5 straight possessions often.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to be an elite unit defensively anytime this season. It obviously has the makings. There's pillars, Miko, right? Like, there's talent at every level, young talent that Brad Holmes and the rest of the Lions staff have drafted. But yeah, that's just going to have to be a week-to-week progression. I like the signing. We'll talk about it more tomorrow, I'm sure. But the Bruce Irvin signing's pretty exciting, just for a few different reasons that we'll get into. So yeah, there's reason for optimism. Not everything's doom and gloom. Just remember, week to week, I don't expect them to give up.
Fortunately, we have the Bears this week.
Yeah.
So like we also have that. So like there's a lot of things to be able to be happy about. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. We appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. Let us know in the comment section if there's anything that you guys took away from these clips, if there were any other plays that really stood out to you when watching this game yesterday. Also, like I said, Morgan does have an article where he really dives into like just how dominant this offensive line is. That'll be linked in the description. So definitely be sure to check that out. Go over, read his article, check out some of the other plays that he highlighted. Because it's really like impressive to see just how dominant this offensive line has been. And I know it may sound like we're just, kind of high on the Kool-Aid, but I think it's one of the best, if not the best offensive line in the NFL right now. So that's going to do it for this video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to hit that notification bell and, continue to help us grow and grow with us as we continue to put out more and more content on this YouTube channel. With that said, I'm Miko. He's Morgan. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Catch you in the next one.